This is Dunc Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
So, of course, everyone under the sun touting the NFL draft quarterback class. People may think that 4 might go in the top 8, 5 or 6 maybe in the first round, and who knows what's going to happen. But, how will it affect, say, the Saints in the NFL draft? Because if there's a run on quarterbacks, of course, that bumps other players down. But a lot of speculation surrounding if the Saints are going to be interested in drafting a quarterback. And Sean Payton had a chance to catch up with Peter King in his Monday morning quarterback column and had some interesting thoughts on this year's quarterback class. I'll just read from what Peter King had to say, basically saying that not many in the NFL think there's a quote-unquote Andrew Luck in this quarterback crop. One of those is Sean Payton. Here's a quote from Payton saying, "I don't see Luck in this draft, and I don't see Carson Wentz, who I liked a lot coming into the draft." Peter King also saying that Sean Payton is in the market for a passer. And then here's Payton's quote again. "I'd feel a little bit uneasy if I were at the top of this draft and I decided I had to have a quarterback. The pressure to get a quarterback is so great in this league. I get that. But we can't create them. I wouldn't be surprised if only one of these guys is left standing in 4 or 5 years. And if so, I'd guess it would be Sam Darnold." You look at how when there's a run on these quarterback classes and you've got tons of guys taken maybe earlier than you anticipate. And let's see, this is probably going back a ways, but remember when the Achilles Smith draft and Donovan McNabb and Tim Couch, there was a run at quarterback and only really, you'd say what, McNabb was the only one to truly survive that and have a viable career. And you could say in some other classes, that's not the case. Look at Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. So I think, though, it's interesting that Sean Payton, we know he knows a thing or two about quarterbacks and how to groom them, that he would say that he feels a little bit uneasy. And I'm curious that he didn't want to say, I always figure Sean Payton and a Baker Mayfield would always fit well together. But he's saying Sam Darnold. So I don't know. Maybe he's throwing in some smoke screen or not. You don't know in draft season what you can trust and what you can't. But I think Sean is saying buyer beware out there. Buyer beware.
And I think rightfully so. I don't think there's any surefire prospect in this draft at quarterback. Now, what could happen, though, is that somebody pans out. Players develop. They figure it out and become bona fide stars. But they all have question marks. That's why if I'm the New York Giants at number 2, I'm entertaining trade proposals, and then I'm looking squarely at Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb.
I agree.
Now, I would not take a quarterback because I don't think there's an Andrew Luck or somebody there that you can count on that's going to be Eli's successor down the road. And you've got other needs. And Peter King's column made a great point. Can you imagine Barkley with Odell Beckham Jr. and Ingram from Ole Miss, the young tight end, Shepard, their slot receiver? I mean, they could have a big-time offense and work on their defense later on. So I think Peyton's shooting Peter King straight there. I don't think he's – and why would he care at this point? I don't think he's as interested in any of those guys.
Well, he probably would be interested if he was in a position to take Sam Darnold, but he's not going to be trading up to the number 1 spot to take Sam Darnold. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But yeah, I do think, though, it's still interesting that Peter says the Saints are in the market for a passer, and we've been talking about who's going to be the successor to Drew Brees. He will turn 40 if they make it to the playoffs and be playing as a 40-year-old quarterback this year. And we know the fascination with Taysom Hill. Tom Savage is on a 1-year deal, so you don't know what they really think about him, but he's good enough to be a backup with Chase Daniel going somewhere else. And I don't know. I've already written about how I don't think the Saints should be drafting a quarterback at this rate, as I've been doing my draft preview columns with our series we're doing at NOLA.com. But I know Sean Payton is going to look hard at these guys. We know how close they were last year. And, oh, by the way, Jordan Spieth and Ryan Palmer are playing in the Zurich Classic again. They better bring us some draft scoop, or they could never be invited again. I'm just going to say that out loud. No problem. Get in that draft war room and give us the scoop the next day. But Sean Payton, and it's funny. I remember when he was asked about this quarterback class multiple times at the owners' meetings a few weeks ago, and he wasn't willing to go and jump out there and say, boy, this quarterback class could be the class of all classes. He was hesitant to say that then, and now maybe he's done a little bit more homework. He's even more hesitant in this column to say it now.
It sounds like the Browns, from Peter's, I guess, reporting, are down to Josh Allen and Sam Darnold is what it sounds like. So Josh Rosen is slipping. Baker Mayfield seems like he's a little lower prospect. But if you're Cleveland, you could maybe take a trade offer and move down. They've already got a ton of picks. But if I'm Cleveland, you got to hit on this pick. I mean, you cannot screw up another.
That's saying a lot knowing that we're involved in Cleveland.
I know, but I mean, they got a different guy in charge now. John Dorsey's in charge, so it's hard to compare them to past groups. The Sashi Brown group, for whatever reason, did not like Carson Wentz, and they're paying the price for that from Browns fans to this day. But the Browns have a ton of picks, and they've got to hit on it. Now, the revisionist history, though, I want to get into a little bit on the Reuben Foster thing, because I think Sean's being a little coy there.
Yes, also in the column, and it's something we've been talking about a lot this past week with all the legal troubles with Reuben Foster, and we've mentioned it, I don't know how many times, we probably mentioned it during the year, how fortunate the Saints were to get Ryan Ramczyk, and how fortunate the Saints were that the 49ers took Reuben Foster basically out of their hands, trading up past the Saints to go get Reuben Foster. And look, Sean Payton certainly confirmed again to Peter King that they were certainly looking at him, and even quote right here, as far as Sean Payton, well, this is according to Foster, I guess, at the time. Sean Payton asked Foster's girlfriend, draft day, are you going to be the guidance to be sure Reuben doesn't get into trouble? And, of course, we know the troubles that he's gotten into now. Even this morning, the 49ers is saying that Reuben Foster's not going to be in their offseason workouts. It sounds like it's the 49ers' call. It's not like Reuben's not just showing up. They're basically saying stay away.
That's what they're saying.
And so it's something. And then here's a quote from Sean Payton, which is a little bit of revisionist history, saying, quote, this was part of our fact-finding late in the round. I hadn't had a chance to meet his girlfriend during the pre-draft process, and we were still in the process of deciding. I think we were going to take Ramczyk anyway, but I wanted to talk to her about Reuben. They were going to take Foster. Give me a break. You can't say that now. Now it's like, Ryan Ramczyk is great, and we were going to take him all along. No.
Especially when you look back a year ago at what they needed, what their needs were. They had greater need for Reuben Foster than Ryan Ramczyk.
They didn't know Streep was going to go down in a heap, and you were going to need Ryan Ramczyk to be your starter all year long. No, you had a need at linebacker. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I feel like, and look, he has the luxury of saying that now. There's nobody would know but Sean, but seems a little convenient to say you were going to take Ramczyk. But nevertheless, they got it. It was the perfect draft for them in so many ways, and that was another stroke of good fortune for them, because they'd be in the middle of a headache right now, and everything is going so well for this team on and off the field. Now, that's one headache they don't need to be messing with. Maybe Reuben Foster does pull it together and get his act together off the field, but like you said, why do you want to go through that headache when you don't have to?
Right, exactly.
As Alden Smith?
Well, that headache's long gone, and he's, what's he, showing up to with his electronic bracelet?
Already drunk?
Hammered, mega hammered. So, yeah, that's...
He's got issues.
And I guess that's the question, too, is just the value of that 27th pick overall. Because, we talk about it a lot, specifically with maybe that time to watch the draft unfold. Maybe it gives you a little bit more time to be able to really think some things out, really talk some things out. Because, we're talking about how desperate or pseudo-desperate teams like the Giants, Browns, all these teams at the very, very early top of the draft. Oh, you need a quarterback, but you got to make sure it hits. You got to get a playmaker like a Saquon Barkley because you got to make sure it hits. Maybe that's probably the value of picking at number 27, is that you have that time to really flesh out some things so that you can make the best possible decision at that pick to bolster your team as a whole. Whereas opposed to, like, if you're picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, you're literally on the clock first. Everybody's watching what you do, and everybody falls in line after that.
Yeah, but you've been on the clock for months. You've known you're going to have the number 1 overall pick. But no, it's when you're at 27, Mickey Loomis made the argument, I'd rather pick 27, 28. I'd rather pick 32 because it means you're coming off of a great season. So that's one part of the aspect. And look, it's I'm curious to see who falls, the run on quarterback. Teams get desperate, and just like last year, teams got desperate. Marshawn Lattimore fell into their lap, and that was a huge coup for the Saints.
Who's going to take Lamar Jackson? I think there's going to be a wild card team out there that takes him, and I'm really eager to see who takes Baker Mayfield, because I think he might end up being the best of the group.
I've been saying that for months. I think he's going to be the best guy, but who knows?
Like, I think he's got some qualities that translate to the NFL that you just can't duplicate. Like Peyton said to Peter, we can't create quarterbacks. You can't create them. Now, you can develop skills, but by this point, they kind of are what they are. And I go back to the Gil Brandt comment about Drew Brees. Did you read that comment he said where he said you can't anticipate that someone like Drew Brees, and he mentioned that Drew Brees on a Tuesday, his marketing guy, I'm assuming Chris Stewart, arranged for a $200,000 commercial to be filmed, and Drew Brees said, no, I can't do that. And that's normally the player's day off during the season. I can't do it. I got to go in and watch tape. He goes, how do you find out that's what somebody's got that in them? In other words, that drive to be great that Drew Brees has, to where he's not even going to take a big payday on his day off. He's more interested in studying tape. That's what you got to be able to find. That's what the Saints, I think, do a good job of drilling down in their player procurement phase of evaluating prospects, is who is passionate about the game and sees this as beyond just a paycheck. They're into it. And a guy like Brees sets the example for everybody else in the building. Which of these quarterbacks in this draft are going to have that same makeup?
All right, let's hit the phone lines real quick. 504-260-1280 is the number. Let's head out to Las Vegas and talk with David. Hey, David, thanks for hanging on. Thanks for calling Dunc Holder. What's up, David?
Jeff and Larry, pleasure to be on with you guys.
You got it.
Great Monday.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. You hit on some great topics, talking about Reuben Foster and a variety of other things, quarterbacks. And I will say I was never a big Reuben Foster guy. Never wanted the Saints to take him. I know a lot of people are pumping him up. But the eye-opening thing for me was when he was at the Combine last year and he got into an altercation with medical staff. To me, that was enough that I needed to know that I didn't want this guy on the Saints. Now, I know, I thought he was going to go in the second round or maybe third round. And so I did not anticipate the Saints having any interest, because with the Junior Gillette thing and a variety of other, Brandon Browner and other guys that was on the staff, on the team from a few years prior, they didn't want any part of anything like that. But whatever happened, happened, and the 49ers took him, thank God, and it wasn't us. So we'll see what happens. Arden Key, another guy I like a lot, but unfortunately, he has some baggage. So to me, unless he's dropping in the third or fourth round, I don't want the Saints to bring that guy on board. He may be talented, but I just don't know if it's worth the headache. That's just my personal opinion. I think he actually fits better in the 34 defense anyway. I think he's too light in the pants, in my opinion. And I want the Saints, if they have the best player available, whether it's Vander Esch, Will Hernandez, whoever the best player available, I think that's the route they should go. Personally, I'd like him to go on defense, but if it's a guard or a tackle, I'd be okay with that, or even potentially a receiver. But I personally think they should go defense. I think Vander Esch is the guy if he's there. I think he's got the size. I think he can put his hand. I think he's got potential to grow into his body even more. And, watching him do an interview on NFL Network, I just thought the guy's got a lot of character and he's very athletic. So, that's kind of what I wanted to say. Kind of get your feedback on that. And then as far as quarterbacks, Kyle Oletta and Mason Rudolph are the two guys I like. We'll see what happens, but It was great being on with you guys. Talk to you later.
All right, David, appreciate the phone call. All right, interesting perspective there, and hard to argue with a lot of his takes. So, all right, let's take a break right here on this show. And when we get back, Jeff, it will be time to talk college baseball.
Yes, I can't wait.
You're just ready to hear classic Todd Graffinini.
Yeah. I am, more than ready. There's nothing better than Graff calling a big sporting event.
Absolutely.
Much less a comeback from a 10-run deficit.
Exactly. So Tulane, big wins this weekend, took the series over Houston. LSU sweeps Tennessee. So things getting on a roll up in Baton Rouge, so we'll talk more about that. Coming up next here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc Holder.